Hello, friends. How are you? Today, I would like to talk about another book that really was a game changer for me. This book in the realm of presentations. And the book is by Dr. Andrew Abela, and it's called Advanced Presentations by Design. So wonderful book. And it's actually, you can tell through the book that Dr. Abela got a lot of his inspiration from an older book, which is also awesome, called Moving Mountains by Henry Bodinger. That's also a great book. Bodinger was an AT&T executive in the 50s and 60s. He went around the world giving presentations, and he wrote this great book about how to do that and why to give presentations and what you're doing when you give a presentation. So here's a quote from Bodinger's Moving Mountains, which I think is part of what Abela did. He took that to a systematic way. He systematized this. But Bodinger says in Moving Mountains, I quote, "The only reason for the existence of a presentation of an idea is that it be an answer to a problem. If you think you can break this rule, you are better than the best essayists, novelists, and dramatists in history. So far, none of them has ever done so successfully." So that's Bodinger. And then Dr. Abela has this book. Not too long ago, he came out with a book that sort of systematized it. And here's what Abela's book is in a nutshell. Okay, because I hope you get it and read it, and we could talk about it. Most presentations today, as we know, are very linear. You're going to give a presentation at a conference. You're going to put 50 slides together. There are going to be a lot of bulleted lists and probably 50 slides, and it's going to be very, very linear. Now, some of those presentations are better than others. Some people are better at using graphics and they look better, but it's still very linear. Okay. Other people take that a step up and they put stories into their presentations, which is an improvement. It gets people very interested to hear stories, but they are stories still in a linear presentation. What Abela is saying and trying to build and trying to make an argument for is, why don't we create presentations that are the whole story? The presentation is the story, and it's selling an idea. So he came up with what he calls the SCORE method. So SCORE. S is for situation, one situation per presentation. The situation is the idea you're trying to sell, the problem you're trying to solve. Okay. And in that situation, what you're going to do is you're going to present to the audience a complication. You're then going to resolve that complication, and then you're going to provide an example to sort of ground it. And then you're going to continue with a second complication, resolve the complication, an example of it. And when you do it this way, it's sort of getting more in tune with all of the great art in history in the world. Music, architecture, movies, they all have this tension and release components to them. So it's a whole nother way to see what you're doing when you're giving a presentation, where instead of just linearly presenting all the data as pretty as you can make it, it's still very linear. It's not what we want as humans. We want to see the complication or the conflict, see a resolution to it, and then see an example that we could attach to our thinking. And now the presentation takes attention, release, tension, release, complication, resolution, example, complication, resolution, example, until you have made your point, until you have sold your idea, until you have solved the problem that you have come to solve. So I'll put some notes in the post. We can discuss this further. I would say, if you're interested, like I think we all are, I know myself personally, when I give a presentation, I want to kill it. I want people to come up to me and say, that was a great presentation. You really solved the problem for me, or your idea was clear, or you got to the point and you changed my thinking. it's hard to do that with a linear presentation. So my homework is to continue on this journey of creating presentations that are much more in tune with the way humans respond to storytelling and art and music, which is that tension release kind of thing. So thank you, Dr. Abela, for a fantastic book. I recommend it to everyone listening. I think it's just great. I think we could all up our game. Is it harder to create a presentation with the score method than a linear presentation? Sure. But in my opinion, isn't it worth it? Like I said, don't you want to go to that presentation and absolutely kill it? Don't you want people walking away saying, you solved the problem for me? So I think it's worth the effort. And thank you also, Mr. Bodinger. You set us on this path by creating a wonderful book about your experience giving presentations all over the world. It was fascinating. And Dr. Abela, thank you for your work. Thank you, everyone.